the kingdom can turn around. We're lighting up the night, shaking up the ground. Excuses and flames, yeah, we're breaking free. We'll be fire, this is our legacy.
Yo, yo.
Welcome to the One Big Fire podcast. Hello, Mr. Jay Kinder.
What's happening?
Man, everybody keeps asking about when the market's going to come back and where's it going to come back to normal. We're going to have a little chat. Like, what if this is the normal?
Yeah.
Okay, 4 million existing home sales. Do we got to build our business around that, or is it going to come back to 5? Will it ever come back to 6 million? We're going to talk about how agents they're waiting for 2021 to come back around. I'm not sure it's going to. But good news is buyers are coming back around. EXP just bought Next Home. We're launching Honey Badger Lending. Excited to talk about that. Jay, you did some ayahuasca over the weekend. We're gonna dig into that story. I can't wait.
Yeah. I'm afraid to even go there.
Yeah, well,
we can talk about it. Yeah.
Now, Funnel Pilot has been pulling 400 to 500 agents a week.
Yeah.
Every single week onto our live on Thursdays. And so the question today is, are you standing outside of that room or do you have a ticket to the dance? We're gonna dig into that and get you that ticket. So today we're gonna cover home sales still at the 30-year low. Buyers are coming back. Since the rates have dipped a little bit. EXP bought Next Home, Honey Badger Lending, the opportunity for high-producing agents and teams. If you're a high-producing agent and team, we got a heck of an opportunity to share with you here that we've been working on for like 6 months. We're going to dig into your weekend, Jay, and the Funnel Pilot momentum, the momentum we're getting and how an agent can get a ticket to the dance. Jay Kinder, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you back.
It's good to be back. I will say it was man, I didn't have a lot of anxiety going into it. I really didn't. But yeah, excited. I mean, I almost have no words for ayahuasca.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, we're gonna
listen. This ain't a journey for everybody. I will say that.
yeah.
There was one person there that you end up facing and dealing with some things that you don't even maybe know that you need to deal with, and if you're not ready for that, it could make for a long evening.
I bet. Well, we're gonna dig into that, and I'm sure the people who are out there on the fence that've been like, "Yeah, man, it would be cool to do ayahuasca and travel, down to Costa Rica or wherever." I know you were in Texas.
Yeah.
A little different environment. But let's talk about this 4 million home sales that we've been seemingly stuck at for the last 3 years. A lot of people, a lot of agents we talk to, they're just, kind of on the edge waiting for this comeback. We peaked at, I think, 6 million home sales in 2021. This is right after the pandemic.
Yep.
If you look at a chart, that's where it peaked. And it, obviously, we look back at the surge that came, post pandemic. And then the sales fell pretty hard, dude. 2024 finished at 4 million, the lowest annual pace since 95. And we're tracking this year to be right around that 4 million mark this year, which means for the last 3 straight years, we're hitting 30-year lows, going all the way back to, I think, 95 or something like that. Yeah. So let's start here. I got to, our agents that you're seeing and meeting, are they emotionally attached to 2021? What does the agent's business look like when it becomes where you actually have to become a marketer? It's no longer easy. Deals aren't just falling in your lap. It felt like, what can I compare it to when it was easy? You remember back when we got our license, and right after September 11th, I would say like between 01 to 05. You remember that? That was that
was a run right then. Yeah. The first, 6 years or 7 years of my career was, 97, from 97 on, it was, it wasn't, I mean, you had average days on the market, 120 days plus. I mean, that was just what so whenever we hit 03, 04, 05, that run there was, that was not natural to me, and then of course, it was followed by 07 and 08, which was, if you weren't here for that, you just be happy. I look at it as, I'm glad I went through it. The things that I learned, I could never have learned any other way. So it helped create, everything, that I've done since then. But that was a different kind of animal. But yeah, I mean, things were, and I guess it depends on the market you're in, but I grew up in a market where it was never 30 days on the market or less. And so, I think people got used to that. Everything sells. And I think since then, I feel like people have, forgotten what that feels like, because, it has been tough the last 4 years. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that we'll never see 6 million home sales again. I don't think that's a number that was natural. to a lot of things had to come and play for that to be the case. When you take into consideration interest rates, COVID, all of those things, that wasn't normal. But 4.8 to 5.2 million has been pretty much what the average has been. So it still feels like we're down 1 million home sales. And so, yeah. Definitely a lot of home sales, but it's not all of them. But you're right. The more and more today, I see the agents that and this is not a bad thing. It's, when your business comes primarily from the relationships you built, the networking that you've done, and the sphere of influence that you have, your past clients, your database, that's a reward for being a great real estate agent. And it's great business, but it never has been predictable or consistent enough for most people to say, well, that's all I can get by on that. And maybe it was in the past, but certainly the last 3 or 4 years, it's not been. And so, now you have to go to, if somebody parachuted into a brand new market and you didn't know anybody, you would have to learn either how to prospect or how to market. You'd have to learn how to turn strangers into customers, and how do you build trust with strangers, and how do you get into more conversations with people that want to buy and sell in the next 90 days. And that's just so happens to be what we really know how to do. So, that's an opportunity if you're willing to learn how to acquire customers through marketing, or to prospect, for that matter.
I mean, we mentioned, the years 2002, 3, 4, 5, and then 06, 07 hits. And, a lot of people aren't really comparing. Everyone says it's the worst market since 95. I have to disagree a bit, because, man, and if you didn't live through 07, 08, 09, as a real estate professional, trying to put food on your table for your family, I don't think you can compare these last 3 years to those 3 years. It's not even remotely close.
Not even close.
I mean, you used to tell the stories you had to cancel your Netflix. I mean,
yeah. That was when Netflix was $7.99, and I was like, that's got to go.
Yeah,
everything had to go. It was, I ballooned up to 200 listings in 07. It was, I can't even imagine this again, ever being this way, but I would have, I had all these listings, and we had to get the prices down. Nothing was moving. And, eventually somebody's going to price lower than you, or the next one that comes to the market's going to be lower. And so I'm calling these sellers, and I'm like, listen, man, we got to get the price down. We got to get the price down. They, the ones that were super motivated anyways. And they would be like, yeah, we'll think about it. Another week would go by, or 2, they would call me, and I would be like, yeah, that ain't even going to work. You're going to have to go down another 20,000. Like it was literally like watching a ball roll off the table. The prices, like, just going down so fast. And in order to sell, you had to be the lowest, or one of the lowest priced, period. Or you did, and you still had to be, a great house. And so, that was, Yeah, that was, I mean, the lesson I learned during that period was build systems around communicating and making decisions on what on the price in the marketplace. And so from that point forward, every listing I took, we had a mandatory meeting in 30 days to review, as opposed to, hey, I listed it and it would usually sell. I had to proactively manage, hey, we got this new inventory, we got these new under contract that were priced at this. We probably need to consider, like you had to be on top of it. But never having had to do that, I didn't have those systems in place. So it was very painful.
Yeah. So we always talk about back to the basics, more discipline around lead generation and conversion, making sure you're a master of your scripts. These are all obvious things. And it does remind me of an echo of back, after we started coming out of that last crash in 2010 is when I met you, actually. When you think about it, would you say that crash kind of created NAEA in a way? I mean, I know that you were trying to get out of the listing side of things, but we needed a proven, repeatable system that was duplicatable across any state, any city, any municipality, or people are, trying to grow their business. A system they can just plug into that builds trust with the client. And I mean, you guys nailed the presentation and grew that, but I think it was coming out off of the tailwind.
It was coming. Yeah, it was. Once we survived the crash, I think that was because we had to shift to short sales. And I mean, I remember going on listing appointments. I would go on 10 listing appointments and refer 9 of those people to the rental department. Like there's just, they were either that or a, VA compromise or a short sale. And so we had to shift during that period, of 7, 8, and most of probably part of 09. But it wasn't until around 10, 11 that, I felt like we came out of that. But that was also while we were developing NAEA and the tools and all of that at that time. But again, still selling 300-400 homes probably 400 homes a year during that whole time period. It's not like we sold tremendously less homes. It was just way harder. Less margin, less profit. Everything was down. It was, give me PTSD thinking about it.
Yeah. We used to have, we have our Freedom Fridays marked in our calendar today, like for the last few years, this is our Fridays we kind of block out to work on our freedom, our freedom number, our future, and build, whether it be from our investments or our long-term goals. But back then, my Fridays were price reduction Fridays. Or I was having a conversation with a seller saying, you should probably just remove your home from the market. It was just a completely you imagine having that conversation today. Agents, advising their client to take the home off of the market if they don't have to sell. It was the better choice for so many people at that point. So
Dude, I was talking to somebody about this actually at this ayahuasca retreat. He just built a big lake home, and he never has had a boat, and he was talking about getting boats. And he's in construction, so we were just talking about our own lives, journeys, and whatnot. And I bought that fountain, the second fountain that I bought in 07. It was a 2006, and I bought it right as the crash started. If they hadn't got that loan approved, it wouldn't have got approved. It was one of those, and I don't even think legal. I don't even know how he got the deal done, but he probably shouldn't have got the deal done. That boat sat from 07 till about probably 2010 with 30 hours on it. And I maybe put 10 hours on it during that time period. I didn't have a single weekend. There was no time off. Up every day at 4 something for 3 years straight. It was that's probably the hardest go I've ever had, and nonstop 7 days a week, 14, 15 hour day, just survival, just trying to survive it. My big lessons coming out of that were, you should cut deeper and cut faster in a time like that. That was my biggest get. I tried to fight it. And man, boy, you better keep your powder dry, have some money, have some cash, because coming out of that was opportunities like we never saw. And that was, I was I was in the, I mean, everything was maxed out. Every credit card, like the credit cards that I used to run the business, like Tiger Leads, and you have a couple $1,000 going to lead gen or whatever. When I would pay $2,000 to Chase, they would send me a letter immediately the next day, and it would lower my balance by 2,000. They were trying to get me out of the business. To that point, I will never do business with Chase Bank. I'm sure a bunch of other banks did it, but Chase is who did it to me. And I had 2 credit cards with Chase, and any amount that I paid on that card, they would lower my available credit by that exact amount. And I'd never missed a payment on anything. I had nothing negative on my credit, but man, they must have knew something was coming because I was maxed. But yeah, that was rough.
Chase
Bank.
Yeah. They were the lender on my arm that adjusted perfectly right in 2009 on one of my rentals that happened to be a single family home where the lady, my tenant, I called her the devil's sister, and rightfully so. She tried to ruin everything inside of that house, including leaving the water running, so that it went down from the second floor into the first. And Chase was the one who held it, and they would not work with me whatsoever. I was like, hey, here are the keys. I'll mail them to you. Take it. You want it so bad. You don't got to fight me for it. Just take the property. Yeah. And they didn't want it. Like, so you don't want it, but you were, file foreclosure. Man, my credit, that was where I had like this come to Jesus. Like, you know what? My credit score, I was so proud of it. It was so high at the time. And then after that, short sale, foreclosure, lost all my money that I had saved, which, wasn't millions or anything like that, but it was my retirement, gone. And lots of lessons learned. But hey, here's the good news. Buyers are quietly tiptoeing back in here, because the other stat I found here was that pending sales just hit their highest level in like 4 years. And I know the rates have dipped. I know my sister Allison, her and her husband are buying a new home right now, and they locked in, I think, like a 5.9%. I was like, okay, time to refinance, but yeah, so it looked like, so they climbed, we're up 7.7% from a year ago. And this is when right after the mortgage rates dipped. And of course they snapped right back to 6.5. Buyer demand is it's real, but it's also fragile right now. And so homes that are overpriced or need too much work are still sitting, but the ones that are polished, that are staged, that are ready to go are gone. And so, are the buyers really back, Jay, or are they just kind of reaching for rate windows? Are they waiting, playing the waiting game to see, what they can lock in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that. I don't think it doesn't feel like that's what I feel like. The rate's got to get to a certain number before people can afford to make sense of making the move. And I think that's in the low 5s. Maybe high 5s to low 5s before that move makes sense. That might get some people off the fence, sell a house, go buy. We're not quite there yet, but it, it's not going to just drop to that. But if we slowly get to that, we'll probably see an increase in sales the next year or two.
Yeah. Well, this is when lending becomes leverage. So, having a great lender in your corner, if the buyers are out there waiting, and it feels like they are, when you see a rate dip and all of a sudden pending sales go shooting up, obviously that this is one of the main, if not the main factor. It used to be like there just wasn't any homes for people to buy. It seems like we got the inventory now. We just need the rates to couple with it, and we might have a winner. But that tees up something we've been working on for 6 months. Honey Badger Lending. We are launching it this month of May. Finally, we got approval from our attorneys. We had 2 RESPA attorneys involved, ran it by leadership at EXP. We have a green light, and we are launching Honey Badger Lending finally. So I'm super excited. Revolution Mortgage is our partner on this, and the guys are, Tony that's leading it, super smart. We partner with Matt Panagoody, a guy I went with I went to high school with back in the day, super smart people. And, let's talk a little bit about that. It's a big opportunity for high producing agents and teams to get involved. And, one of the things that I've seen that I've kind of just had an inherent issue with over in what I've been witnessing. And this is the relationship that correlates between the agent or the team leader, or sometimes the broker, and the lender. And it's a market service agreement. We've all had them. Market agreements have been around for decades. But more often than not, I feel that it creates a friction in that relationship. And I'm going to explain why. There's three things that can happen when you sign a marketing agreement with a lender. And I'm going to start with the best case scenario, right? The best case scenario, number one, is everybody's happy. The lender's paying half of your realtor.com bill or your ad spend or whatever it is. And they're in return getting, what they feel is a fair amount of mortgage business, referred their way. So that's scenario one, which I don't know about you. I don't hear that often. Okay. Usually it's scenario 2 and 3. Scenario number 2 is the lender's paying half of your marketing spend and what have you. And they're just not getting enough business to support the amount of money they're writing. Now, those two things should not be, according to RESPA, correlating, but we all know that it does. And someone feels like they're getting the short end of a stick. So the lender feels like they're getting the short end of a stick because they're not getting enough business to support half of the spend they're sending you. And then what happens are conversations, or in the case of some people, an email that's sent saying, hey, we need more deals. Otherwise we got to cut you off or whatever, which, that crosses into the no land.
Yeah.
And the third scenario is the opposite, which means lender's paying, half or whatever, but you're sending them a ton of business and you don't feel like they're contributing enough to your business. And from our standpoint, we never wanted to, we've had at least a dozen different opportunities to get involved in mortgage, over the last, just since we've been at EXP, but even before that. But since we've been at EXP and launched Honey Badger Nation, we have 26,000 agents part of our organization right now. And we have a big opportunity to do something. We've said no to 10 of them. This number 11 that came along felt right. And I don't know, Jay, for me, it felt right because it was the most fair exchange in value that was squeaky clean when it came to RESPA. There is no exchange of, hey, I'll pay half of your thing with an expectation that we can't even really put in writing because that's illegal. And I'm excited about it. So for you, why does the lending element have to align, especially in this market? It's obviously people, agents are struggling right now. We're at 4 million sales. That ain't going to change according to what we're seeing over the next 12 months. Why are you seeing like this alignment from a lender, the right type of an alignment, the one we're creating, is important in this kind of environment?
Yeah. Well, number one, the number one thing is, if you want to be relevant as a real estate professional in this industry in the next 10 years, you have to become the expert. There's no substitute for being the most knowledgeable given your client's situation that you can help them in every possible way. I think always, we've all, as agents defaulted to this lender or that lender for that, for that expertise, but you really need to be the one that's the expert. And I think that's an important thing, that if you want to be valuable to your clients, then you need to understand more of the process of what you can do for someone as it relates to the loan side. I think that's a sidebar, but that's critically important. The other thing is, this is Jay Abraham 101 in business. You can, there's the 3 ways to grow the business model, which in real estate, it doesn't quite apply, because repeat customers, so you can increase your average transaction. So when you, and in real estate, we would always equate that to, well, you could sell higher average sell price and you could make more money. If you were, or you could increase the frequency of sale, how often someone buys. So if you were a Walgreens, like, the story of Walgreens in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, Walgreens were all in the middle of the blocks in the 1990s. They moved all the hard corners after that. Why? Because access, more people could access, more people through the front door. They put the photo processing in where people would come in, drop off their photos. They would come back and pick those up again. Every time they came in, they would spend $35. They were increasing the frequency of purchase. Well, in real estate, that's well, hey, I sold them a house. The 7 years from now, they might buy another one, or maybe they buy an investment property. So that's one of the challenges. But increasing, when you look at who all gets paid in a real estate transaction, the real estate agent is the conduit to a lot of money changing hands. And one of the ways to increase your dollar per sale is to get paid on all the pieces that if you're bringing it to the table. I'm bringing it to title. The guy that cleans the carpets, everybody's getting paid because I put the deal together. I'm the one spending the money to get the deal, to find the client, and all these other trades get paid. It's a natural move to start being compensated on more parts of the business that you control. And so, I've always felt that way. I owned a title, I owned mortgage, when I was in Lawton. And so, it's just increasing, the dollar per transaction. You don't necessarily need to sell 500 homes a year like I did in Lawton. I almost had to, but you can just increase how much you earn per sale by controlling the experience. You're not giving that to someone else where you're out of the loop and you're not in control of that experience. So I think those are all important pieces of the puzzle.
What I really like more than anything about the new model, and by the way, this has never been done, which is exciting and scary at the same time. But what I love about it is the alignment. One of the reasons we moved our brokerages from an indie type of a model into EXP was actually comes down to one thing. It was alignment. It financially aligned the brokers, the agents, the team leaders, all in alignment. And that's why we did that. And it's why we came to EXP. It's why we've stayed at EXP, frankly, is that there's no better place for financial alignment. With this model, not only does it eliminate the need for a market agreement with a lender and, trying to guess on, okay, is it half of the marketing spend on this, and trying to walk that RESPA tightrope, it feels like. Yep. Love the alignment. We're going to be doing a webinar next week. So DM Jay Kinder or DM myself to get an invite to that webinar. We're not going to get into the weeds on it today. But it's the financial alignment piece. And it's also it's not just what it is, Jay, it's also what it's not. A lot of the opportunities that came across our desk required us to get an LO license, or requires the agent to get a license to originate loans. And we just fundamentally, at least for me, I don't know your thought on it. That didn't feel like that was the right alignment. I think we need to stay in our lane as real estate agents. That's nothing like if you like to do your mortgages and you do a couple deals and maybe you'll get a mortgage out of one of them and it adds to your income, cool. But at scale, I don't see that working. We're juggling as real estate agents so many different pieces of it. And you're right. We are the conduit. And so if we take the conduit and with all the different pieces, the lending, the title, the home inspection, all the things that we're kind of like, I don't want to say controlling, but managing. We're managing that experience for our client. Now we're over here. We go from managing this to like, oh yeah, we're going to do the mortgage too. I don't have, if that's what somebody wants to do, fine, but you're not going to be able to scale your business with that. You got to stay in the lane that you're an expert in. And for me and you, that has not been originating loans.
No.
So there's no requirement to get a license. You don't got to open up a mortgage branch, all those things that people, it feels like, they're kind of moving toward because they feel like that's the opportunity. This is a bigger opportunity. There's going to be actually more upside in this opportunity for a team leader or a broker. And by the way, it's at any brokerage. You don't have to be at XP, to partner with us on this one, but you get to stay in your lane, do what you love, do what you do best, and becoming, just continue becoming a master and an expert at leading your organization, yet having income coming in that'll trump any marketing agreement. When you see this, I think it's going to blow your mind. So, that's a little bit of a tease. We don't have time to get into the weeds of this, but we're approving our first presentation here, and we should have a live webinar. So DM me or Jay Kinder if you're interested in looking at what this looks like, because we haven't been excited about a lending opportunity, me ever, like from this angle. We got great partners. So like it feels like what we're talking about is the ecosystem, which brings us right into the next home purchase. Okay, EXP buys next home. And this comes on the kind of the tail of the news of Real purchasing Remax a couple weeks back. And, Tristan Amata, am I saying his last name right? Tristan Amata.
I think so.
Yeah. He had a really great quote, and I want to read it and give credit to Tristan because
his video by far was one of the best videos on the announcement. Yeah.
He opined here, and he had one of the better takes I've seen. As he said that most people are going to read the EXP Next Home deal wrong, because the real play may not be the 500 offices or 5,000 agents. It's the migration path. And he says EXP just didn't buy 500 offices and 5,000 agents. They bought a well-positioned path for franchise refugees. I love how he put that. Right before what could be the biggest wave of them in this business we've seen in a long time. And so let's talk about the refugees Tristan was talking about in that quote. Next Home, is been positioned well for franchise owners who want flexibility, meaning they don't want to make the large investment in a long commitment actually into, let's say, a Keller Williams, which is, I believe, a 10-year franchise agreement. Just saying those words kind of makes me queasy a little bit.
Yeah,
10 years.
10 year anything right now.
And here's the thing, like I wouldn't be buying a franchise right now. We chose the cloud-based model and whatever, but we have a lot of friends that are in franchise models and it works for them. Some of them it's not, and they're waiting for their date. Right.
I don't know anybody that's a friend of mine that has a franchise that is working.
I know one. I do know one. And, but they've been well positioned as like, okay, maybe.
Are you telling me you know somebody that has a franchise that sleeps well at night?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do. A friend of mine who actually owns a Next Home in Ohio.
Okay, well, Next Home, that's different. Okay.
But
better now too.
But he can't wait to work with us because he also loves the cloud-based model. Like he's got 80 agents, like his agents are happy. They love the model. They love the level of support. It's not making them a whole lot of money. It's making them, a decent amount of money. Okay. But they're excited about the opportunity to plug into a revenue share model and combine the two if there's a possibility to do that. We don't know what's going on, and we know everyone's down in NOLA right now. Hello to all our friends in New Orleans. We were able to make the mastermind, and there's going to be a lot revealed after that. So we'll report what we find on our next podcast next week. But Next Home gives owners lower fees, flexible lower branding, lots of benefits to it that are possibilities. But here's the truth of it: nobody really knows. We don't have a playbook to work off of. But what are your thoughts after that news hit? You were actually, I think, on your way to your ayahuasca retreat when I texted you like, "Hey, we just bought Next Home."
Yeah,
I want to know what your initial thoughts were, because we had some opinions about the Remax acquisition, and they're completely different. But go ahead.
No, for sure. Yeah, on the surface, I didn't think much of it. It wasn't until I started really looking into exactly who Next Home was, and what the strategy behind this was that I got excited. And it's brilliant. I mean, there's 2,400, roughly probably 2,000 to 2,400 renewals of franchises every year, and probably 500 to 600 of those are real opportunities that are probably, looking for a landing place, but, don't want to disrupt, these franchise offices typically, depending on which one you look at, Keller Williams probably averages over 100, anywhere probably averages around 35. But, anywhere got purchased by Compass, and they still have those renewals coming up. They may or may not want to do the deal, and be a part of Compass. That, it may be a bad scenario. Maybe they're not happy with that. And so this Next Home was a good model to move to without disrupt, because it's all about leadership. I mean, if you're at 100 agents or less in your office, the reason they're there is you. So, they're going to trust the move you make as long as it's not a big disruption to their current compensation model. So having a way to make a transition away from a brand that probably isn't adding a ton of value, which I think, there's a lot of disgruntled, every single franchise out there. I mean, what value is the franchise bringing? I mean, let's do a poll. How many deals did the balloons get you at Remax last year? How many deals did the gold jacket get you last year at Century 21? How many deals did, you could go on and on and on. That's not, there's not much value in that model, and they siphon a lot of money out of that brokerage. And so, once I understood the strategy, I was like, wow, we're literally going into a time where there's forced consolidation, where there's still going to be these renewals coming up, and people are probably opening their eyes to what all is there out there. So it creates a lot of opportunity. And then, the rest of these companies, what are they doing to be relevant? And they haven't been in quite some time. And so it seems like, we're probably going to have a lot more of these renewals that are looking for a landing place. And now we have acquired a really good transition that they could migrate over to EXP in our model at some point, or they could stay as Next Home, depending on what EXP's, overall strategy here is. It seems very, very smart what we're doing right now, given the timing.
Well, there's some obvious big differences between Remax and Next Home. Remax has a larger network. They're overseas. They're in multiple different countries, which I think that the Remax model is still stronger overseas, than I know, it's kind of a plug and play franchise thing that you can open one up in Spain, France, Italy, anywhere in Europe. You can pop these in Costa Rica, and it's pretty turnkey. And the question is, how many agents are they going to actually recruit? These are small offices. Yes, they may be in Costa Rica, but I was just in Italy and visited a couple offices, and there's not, it's kind of like the States. There's not a whole lot of agents swimming around in these offices either. It's my biggest question I had, and I think it was Tristan that kind of described what we did as a moat. The other biggest difference between Next Home and Remax, and I'm talking specifically about the United States, is that the number one franchise that we are recruiting from when it's time for a renewal, like I don't know if you've been involved, but I've never been involved in one transition of a Next Home office to EXP.
No,
you've been involved in literally dozens upon dozens and dozens of Remax offices that they're not renewing. And if I'm thinking strategically from a Remax, corporate standpoint, is this going to stop the bleeding? And I mean, that has to be the question, because the agent count keeps going down. The number of offices and franchises, I don't see new Remax offices just popping up everywhere.
No.
And from that standpoint, Next Home has remained relevant, and I believe a lot of that is leadership. Like Dave Linegar, he launched Remax in 1973, the year my young buck was born. That was the year I came into the earth. So that's been a long freaking time ago. And he hasn't iterated on that model whatsoever. And the other thing I heard on an interview, it might have been when we were in a meeting with Leo, was that he's most excited about synergizing with another leader who's forward thinking. James Dwiggins, I've been watching him. I don't know if you've watched him, but
I haven't had a chance to. I hear great things about him.
Dude, the dude is a highly intelligent as it relates to our industry. He's an industry leader. People listen to him. And he was opining a lot, right after like the pandemic, and we were going through a lot of that uncertainty and didn't know what was going on. I was listening to him, and honestly, I was beyond impressed. But if I'm being, truly honest, I didn't know anything about Next Home. I'm like, what? I didn't know anything about the company. I didn't really know him. I'm just like, dang, this is a smart dude here. And I think Leo's super excited about collaborating in all the ways that we could make this work. I know that a lot of the brokers that I've talked to, and I haven't reached out to any Next Home, but I've had friends I have a couple friends that are Next Home brokers, and one of them reached out and he's excited. How can we get involved in some of the revenue? Like, he's not looking to sell his franchise, but he wants to get involved in our model in some way. So it's going to be fun to see the synergy and the entrepreneurial spirit coming out, because that is something that, yes, Leo's a corporate CEO, but he was an entrepreneur. He was an agent. He was a team leader prior to that. Same thing with James. And those two, I think we're going to make, it could very well, if this is positioned right, Jay, could be the next wave. Yeah. For not just EXP, but it could be the next wave for Next Home as well. And ultimately it has to be a wave for both. One can't cannibalize the next.
Right.
And there'd be, I'm excited.
We talk about this all the time and it's the one thing that I cannot believe agents they just put their heads in the sand. Like, are you at a company that is agent centric or not? And if you really look at the companies that are up, this is two agent centric companies combining. Any other company that's out there, especially with AI, I'm just telling you, the next year there's going to be more offers for people to, if your broker comes up with any type of solution, it's going to be a tax. It's either going to be a technology where they're trying to get you to pay monthly. Think about what Real bought with Remax. They bought 55,000 monthly users for technology. That's their play. What's the valuation of that company with 55,000 more people paying, X number of dollars per month? So they're going to tax you one way or the other. And so nothing made me happier when I saw that we changed from EXPI to AGNT, because I've been saying it all along. It's like, listen, I'm trying to help agents. Let me help you build an autonomous machine where you get customers yourself. So you don't have to pay Zillow 41% and be on Flex and be subject to all these companies that try to siphon off your business. And that's what EXP provides. All the tools that you need. We do all the implementation, and we help you build your brand. Like I say every week in the webinar, it's like Jay-Z says, you're not a businessman, you are the businessman. You're the brand. So, a company that supports that, and that's what EXP is. I believe that's what Next Home is. That's a good alignment fit. And I think these companies that are trying to tax agents over and over and over are, they're just going to take more from you. And so, you can either continue. You're paying lots of taxes as it is. You pay taxes. You pay your federal taxes. If you live in a state where you pay state taxes, you pay those taxes, and you're paying the Zillow tax and the broker tax, split tax, and all of these taxes. And, the agent is going to be, none of these companies are going to own the consumer and manage the consumer experience. The agent does. You're the business. So you should be in alignment. You should be at a company that is supporting, helping you build your business and your brand. And that's what I see this move is allowing us to do, is help more agents build their brands, where they've been at these franchise companies for so long that didn't really add any value. And they built a book of business of people that trust them. It doesn't matter where they're at. They just need to be in an ecosystem where they're being supported.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting to see what's coming up. I do trust that our leadership is going to, the most, my most favorite part about being part of this organization, and this goes all the way back to when we first started, where it was a small company of 5,000 agents at EXP, and we would get together like they're doing down in New Orleans right now. And leadership listens to, their agents, their leaders, their builders, and they're open to ideas. I mean, Leo put it in the text message. We're in a text thread with him, and he's like, Give me your ideas. Tell me what you're thinking of. And obviously that doesn't mean that we're going to get a red, we're going to get a green light check mark on every idea we bring to the table, but that's how collaboration works. We throw ideas, outside of the box ideas, things that no one else is thinking of. And that happens through a mastermind. It happens through listening, contributing, getting in the room, not to what you're going to take out of that room. What are you going to bring to the room that's going to contribute to help everybody? So,
yeah, let me tell you, let me put people on game how gangster EXP is from an operational standpoint. This quarterly mastermind that we do is all of the best top agents in the industry, all the top attractors within the industry, all in the room for 2 days. You know what happens right after that? The quarterly meeting for EXP from a corporate standpoint. So when you think about, all the companies that I've ever ran, the importance of getting the information from the furthest out, the people on the front lines of your business doing things that you're maybe not in connection with all the time. That information flows up to a manager, to another leader, to somebody who's in that executive room doing the quarterly strategic planning and determining what is the strategy, what are the right priorities, where's the biggest fire, or where's the biggest opportunity. And you're making decisions to try to do the right things in the right order based on the resources that you have. And that's how you make decisions and grow a company. The fact that EXP is bringing all of us into the room and listening to what our needs are, our challenges are, and they're coming back with, from the last quarter, things that got executed based on things that we brought to the last meeting. That is when I always say this when I'm talking to people, like, you're not going to really truly understand it until you're in this ecosystem. But when you're in this ecosystem and you see how the machine runs, man, you're in the right place. Like it's just one of those things that it's operational excellence. And I see it because I've tried to do it, at a small scale, you know what I'm saying, with companies in the past. And I'm like, this is the best I've seen it executed at this high of a level, where they're listening to the people that know what the hell's going on every day, because we're out there in the field doing it. And then they're taking action and they're going into their quarterly, setting their priorities based on having heard that information, and not just, you feel like you're yelling into the well and nobody's listening. And that's where, somebody asked me yesterday, who do you think your competition is to EXP? I said, oh, we don't have competition. What are you talking about? And they said, what do you mean? There's all these, Me Too companies. I said, we survived that. I said, those companies are all hitting headwinds now. At the time, we had tailwinds and no competition. They do not have the operational infrastructure in place. And if you're at one of those companies, you know that there's not somebody for you to go to hear that, for you to give that information, and it gets back to somebody at corporate, becomes a priority and gets executed on. It doesn't move. The information doesn't move fast enough. And the execution of those things, man, we'll get to that when we put this fire out. We're over here trying to deal with attrition. We're dealing with, all of these challenges that they're facing, and they don't have the money or the infrastructure to be able to do that. Now they can try to go get that money, and then they can tax the agent. Well, who gets taxed? They pass that through right to you. So they're going to either take more from you, change the model, take more from you, or they're just going to have to move slower. And, if you feel like they're not moving fast enough, we felt like that too at EXP. We felt like that for 5 years. We're like, but we had tailwinds. And so, call it good timing, call it what you want. But that, had we not had tailwinds, we wouldn't be where we're at today. And that's, I think we were blessed with, not having competition for the longest time. You think you can just, put a revenue share model together in 5 levels and say you're a competitor? Yeah, that's not the same. Yeah. It's not, that doesn't make you our competition.
Dude, you just brought something up, and it all surrounds around timing. It was timing. When you think about it, there were the 2 factors you just brought up. One, we didn't have competition. We had a blue ocean. There was no other, so, we had that going for us when we hit 30,000 agents.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact timing of, if Real was launched at that point. I don't believe that it was, but we hit a wall, and it was a math problem wall that we had to get around, and we did. And then we just kept going. That hockey stick kept going. But the other factor, so it's no competition, and now there's what, a dozen other Me Too models,
probably 30 or 40. Everybody thinks, well, we're just going to do what EXP did. Good luck.
Right.
Yeah, doesn't work that way.
Well, here's the other thing, and if you look at a chart and you see from like 2017 is when we joined, and you look at the trajectory of the home sales that rode us right up into 2021. I mean, we had literally a wave of not just excitement, people about the model. Of course, people were, you got maybe half the people are like, EXP, it'll never work. I got a funny story to tell you too about that. But we heard all of that. So we were getting the arrows, but the arrows weren't bothering us because we were on too high of a wave. Not just a wave of excitement about our model, but the home sales. So that home sale wave, and then it all compounds. That's like compounding interest. We had a new model, no one's ever seen it. People that saw it, loved it, jumped aboard. And a lot of those people that jumped aboard, we can name the names. You had Chuck Fazio, an office of 900 agents, independent. You had Kyle Whistle, Dan Beer, Curtis Johnson, Veronica Figueroa. The list just keeps going on and on. We could be here all day. Mark Z, big names that are on stages at Inman who saw it, and you combine that with the wave of home sales that was going on, and now let's compare that to, let's say, a company like Real. Smart people running the boat, no doubt. They're taking some big risks. I can appreciate someone who wants to go out and take a big risk, but that tailwind's not there. We're still the incumbent number one, not even close number two. And then you have all the trailing other options that if EXP isn't, let's say that's just not their cup of tea for whatever reason it is, there's like 6 other options with Real. So Real's more in competition, in my opinion, with them than they are with us at this point. But what happened in 21? Felt like right when Real was hitting, home sales just started dipping by the tune of 2 million. Mm-hmm. From 6 million to 4. That's huge. And so, of course, the debt started piling up, and they're going to keep running. I know they have to do their best. There's no other way to do it. And so I do wish them well, because the one thing that this has proved is our model is the model, not of the future anymore. It's the model of right now. And so this recent acquisitions, we're playing a game of ecosystems now, not so much of the brokerage anymore. It's still a game of brokerage in the platform, but now it's an ecosystem of platforms. Who can gather up the most powerful platforms, from lead generation to AI, and of course the overall brokerage model itself, and combine and package those in an ecosystem that benefits the whole. That's the new game that we're in right now. EXP is just adding jet fuel to that whole thing, which, speaking of jet fuel, Jay, you had a different kind of growth experience last week, and we talk a lot about business growth, but I got to talk about this growth experience that you had over the weekend here. I want to know what Ayahuasca showed you that our business classes and all the courses we've taken and learned, and the books we've read. How did Ayahuasca? What did it show you, dude? That this business has not showed you.
Dude, how long you got?
We saved this one for the last because
man. I mean, it's been something I wanted to do for a long time. Really, when I moved down to Puerto Rico, I got reintroduced to psychedelics. Oddly enough, maybe it's not odd, but the number of people that regularly do psychedelics per capita in Dorado Beach East is probably higher than any place on the planet. I would say it's quite interesting how you find super wealthy people are really looking at their own personal growth and their own journey in life and experimenting in these areas. So
Jay, I don't want to interrupt your flow here, but why do you think that is? There's a direct correlation. We see it all the time between wealthy business owners and not, high income earners who are out there getting it every 7 days a week. And, we're seeing it from, Steve Jobs. You go right down the line of all the greats, seem to go there to find something. They're finding something. They have all the money in the world they could ever spend. Most of them have more than they can even spend. But they're still
I think when you spend most of your life with the pressure on trying to just get ahead, and get to a place where, when the pressure's been on my whole life, 30 years, at least 20 of those 30 years in the business where the pressure was always on. Right. And when the pressure's off, you start asking different questions. Well, what's this life all about? What am I meant to do? What am I meant to be here for? What's the next move? And I think that's probably part of it. I think you're asking different questions because, it's not about the money anymore. It's about something more, and, purpose and doing something that really matters. And so I think that's probably where a lot of it comes from. It helped me just as a human, just having more empathy. I'm not the most empathetic, certainly not, there's areas I know that I can improve. And that's the reason I didn't seek it out. It found me. So, this opportunity just happened to line up. I'm like, man, I'm going to do it. And didn't have any expectations. I know a lot of people that go into ayahuasca with trying to solve some trauma or something that they're dealing with. There's a few folks that were there that were dealing with some things that they were trying to get through. For me, I was just wanting to become better, right? Where do I need to get better? Show me the way. Where's the path? Just being open-minded to maybe my blind spots, what I'm not seeing. I saw a lot. I mean, I definitely saw a lot. There's, and these are the, it's very vivid. I mean, it's very vivid. It's very, it's a very colorful way to tell a story. But when you go in with intention, you tend to find what you're looking for. And real quickly, I think for me and it was so weird, man. I mean, I'm going to sound crazy. I'm afraid to even say it. So, like, first of all, I'm in this journey of all these things, and I'm trying to follow along, and I'm trying to also let go, because the more you try to grab onto anything that's there, man, the further you get from it. And so you're kind of focused on your breathing. God, it's wild. But I got to this place where I was like, man, I recognize this. I've been here before. And it was God. It was Jesus Christ. And he was wearing a hat that said JC. And it looked kind of like Max Headroom from back in like the 80s. You know what I'm saying? Crazy stuff. And I was like, man, I've been here before. I know I've been here before. And I remembered saying, like, I would be back, and I hadn't come back. And so there was something super familiar about it. I had to let go of that because I was trying too hard to figure that out. And I still, to this day, I do not know where I saw that exact same vision before, but I'd seen that exact same vision. I've been there before. Like, there's no question about that. In my mind, I know I had seen that exact imagery and everything all one other time. But it was like, if you want to be better, where you could be better. You keep a scoreboard. How many sales? How many recruits? How many people's lives have you saved? How many have you brought to God? Like, that was the message that was loud and clear to me. I could be a better Christian. That was impactful, super impactful, and that came real quick, right out of the gate. Like, where could you be better? Here's a place you can be better. And then, the second night was, again, going in with intention. You spend a lot of time, really on what your intention is. And I was, along the same vein of where can I be better? Where can I get better? But, what am I here for? What am I here to do? And I couldn't even explain how I got to this place, but I got to witness this is going to sound crazy. I literally witnessed my own childbirth, which is, I still don't understand it was trying to tell me, but it was pretty entertaining, to say the least. Being at you, I'm in the hospital room, you know what I'm saying? Like, while I'm being born, like, what? Like, just crazy, man.
Yeah.
But I left. I mean,
what was God trying to tell you in that moment?
I think,
that's really, that's what I want to know.
Yeah, I think he was telling me. I think he was telling me real loud and clear why I'm here. Is, I'm here to serve God. That's what I'm here for. And I think that, that was just, I'm not super vocal about it. I'm for the longest time I used to say, yeah, I'm not super religious. I used to say it too, right? But I'm a Christian. And I think that was, I think for me, that was God tapping me on the forehead, not on the shoulder, and saying, you can be better. I don't know how old I was. I was probably like, I don't even remember, maybe 6 or 7 years old. And my parents took me to the cemetery where I had 2 brothers and a sister that didn't live, and I was the one that lived. So all this time in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, I'm here for some reason. I don't know what it is, but I'm here for a reason, because I'm alive. I think part of that story was God telling me, hey, you're here for a reason, right? I mean, that's, shoot, you can make whatever connections you want, but when you go through that kind of experience, you can't explain it, man. Like, even if it's just your own mind making up whatever it's making up, it's fascinating that your brain can even come up with any of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? No matter what drug it is. And so, like, it was absolutely a wild experience. To be honest, like, super uncomfortable to share. It's just man, I left there with a level of peace, love, and man, just like, I can go do more. Like, I can make a bigger difference in more people's lives. Like, that's what I left, feeling, the best I've ever felt. I feel the best I've ever felt. So that for me, it was good. There's other people that were there that were fighting whatever they were trying to deal with. I mean, I'm puking and shitting, and I mean, it's not a great, this is not a 5-star resort experience, like there's some things that go along with this that you're going to be uncomfortable. So if if you're not a little outdoorsy and a little, if you can't let go of your worldly things for a few days, then this is probably not for you. But there's definitely some side effects to it. But I saw people struggle to let go of things too. It's quiet. You're dead quiet the whole time, and then there's music and all this other stuff. And there were some people that were fighting what they needed to face, and you could pick up on that pretty quick when they were trying to fight it, but no use. So some people's experiences are going to be different, because you had some stuff you got to deal with, and if you're not ready to deal with it, I think it makes it really hard. And so I think that's for some people, it might be completely life-changing in that, and being able to let go of something like that. But it's I'm no shaman, but I've been through a couple pretty good experiences like this. So you got to just put your skis on and go along for the ride. There's no reason to fight it.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway after we talked yesterday, when you got back from the retreat, was a contrast that you made between, because when Courtney and I, we already went down the road of exploring, we just have to pull the trigger on Rhythmia down in, I think it's Costa Rica, to have our experience. But the one thing that the guy that was like, I guess the counselor that you meet with that talks about is like, okay, figure out what you're going for, and I mean, you could say it differently. Like, okay, what is the purpose?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are looking for the purpose. So to ask that question, kind of seems a little bit, maybe contradictory, but what you said was I had to let go of that purpose and just let it.
What do you want to show me?
What are you going to show me? I mean, I think that's the better way to how I want to experience it. I think a lot of what you just said here, I have to just tell you that the whole time you were describing, what came out of it, more empathy, more love, more kindness. That was how I felt when I left Jim Brooks' celebration of life 2 weeks ago in Vegas, when we went to go celebrate our brother in Christ and our brother in Honey Badger Nation, Jim Brooks, because after everybody spoke about Jim, that's how I felt. I felt a spiritual connection to Jimmy, but not just Jimmy, but to God. And in a sense of this is, you know what I mean? In seeing Jimmy, the image of Jimmy and the description, we already knew all this about him, but it was just a beautiful eulogy by his daughter and by his wife, Sandy. And I'm actually going to read a message because it's relevant to this conversation. But for me, like, that's how I left there. And you're described, as you were describing how you left your ayahuasca experience, that all I could think about the whole time is that's how I felt when I left that memorial from Jimmy.
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, it's hard to compare one to the other, but that's how I felt. Like, I also felt, you know what, I could be doing a hell of a lot better than how I'm doing right now.
Right.
You know, spiritually, and whatnot. But oh man.
So no, you're 100% right. I think Jim was an incredible human, incredible Christian in his faith, and that was evidenced by everyone there and the whole thing. But his wife sent me, this was in his wallet that he carried around, and I didn't write down what he told what he said all the time. Was it was very simple: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. That's what he carried in his wallet. And I left there feeling like, man, if there's ever a person on this planet that I could, that I should be emulating and wish I was more like, it would have been Jim. That was, a real, so yeah, that going into this, I don't know, man. You can only, I think you can only see that there's, connections that start to get made and some clarity that you find, on this journey.
Thank you for grabbing that quote out of the wallet, because that's what I was actually just looking for. Tito just said the fruit of the spirit. Yes, that's exactly. So I'm going to reread that, what Sandy sent, because this actually came from his daughter, Brianna, who just, man, I don't know how she did it. Incredible delivery of that. Just her best friend and her dad. But Brianna said when she would come to Jimmy and with a problem, teenage problems, girls, boys, we all get, teenagers, the hormones are running and it feels like the world is all coming down. And she would come to Jimmy and Jimmy would say, are your actions or your emotions coming from a place of love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control? It's the fruit of the spirit. And that's something that Tito just put up there. And I just put it up on the screen. It is the fruit of the spirit. And Tito says that came from
Galatians 6.
Galatians 6, yes. So, really great. Thank you for sharing that, Jay. Your experience and I think that we all need to get regrounded. We get caught up in all the business chatter and all the noise and the doom scrolling. And, I'm really just trying to just stay off of Facebook as much as possible, to be honest with you, because of the doom scrolling and disconnecting from toxic things that draw me back in. Stuman describes it as the force of average. The force of average is constantly pulling us back down to be average. We're striving to be above average. We're striving to be better human beings, better fathers, better husbands, better sons and daughters to our parents. And in order to do that, it doesn't involve selling 500 homes a year. Mm-hmm. It involves in reconnecting to the fruit of the spirit. And I think that's a great way to end this one, brother. Appreciate you there, man.
Yeah, man.
As always, I guess I didn't put in our invitation for tomorrow. Actually, not tomorrow, Thursday. I'll put it up on the screen real quick once I can find how to do that. But join us Thursday, 12 Central. Yeah, 12 Central.
Yep.
Jay will be presenting our funnel pilot, how to leverage his $100,000 a month in expenses is what it costs to do this thing. And you can leverage it for free. Check out how we're doing it. It's changing agents' lives. It's changing agents' businesses. And we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it and
Just
doing
getting
it.
started, baby. We're just getting started.
Yeah. Go to
It's
Jet
great.
Fuel. Yep. Go to jetfuelleads.com/live. Jetfuelleads.com/live. That's it. And we will see you at the top.